I'm here to tell you that humanity is on the cusp of an exciting new way of being. We dare to imagine living a chronic disease-free life well in our 60s, 70s, and 80s. A life that is fulfilling both emotionally and cognitively. It's definitely an exciting time where we are seeing massive improvements, or at least potential for improvements, of our individual and our collective health. I've spent my entire career looking for that health frontier, first as a doctor, and then as a clinical data scientist and a digital health strategist, and now as a functional medicine practitioner. Welcome to the Human Recovery Lab, where science-backed ideas meet real human stories about how life's hardest moments can become our healthiest comebacks. While my career path has set me up to understand that human body, I truly received and was humbled by my education when my body stopped working and functioning as I expected to. Over the years of my medical and data careers, I developed first a crippling depression in my last year of medical school that required Prozac. I then had a terrible back pain that in my late 20s required me to inject my own hip with an analgesic to stop the pain. I had a flirtation with insulin resistance when I realized that my hemoglobin A1C was getting very close to pre-diabetes level in my early 30s. And today, I'm 35 and I thankfully live a life that is free from all three and their required medications. But make no mistake, there was no panacea, no silver bullet, no shortcuts. It continues to be a daily practice to keep these health icebergs from sinking my ship. My appetite for studying my own health and human behavior led me to address these issues in my late 20s and early 30s, rather than letting it continue to snowball into a health crisis. It would have been really easy to numb these experiences with medications until I had to go see a doctor in my 50s or my 60s. At which point, let's be real, the doctor is going to tell me to do all the things that I'm already doing now to take a more proactive stance towards these health demons, I call them. And today, I want to present you with a process that you can follow to identify your own health problems before they become insurmountable. And I feel confident that you too can achieve this. This is what I want for you. But first, you must understand this, that if you neglect your health in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, no one will give it back to you in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. This could become possible with time and research into longevity drugs and precision medicine, but the technology hasn't really caught up yet, and I doubt that this will be available for you and I. Maybe our children, potentially our grandchildren, maybe the grandchildren of our grandchildren. No one knows. But if you do not take full ownership of your health right now, no healthcare technology, institution, or any amount of money is going to bring that back to you. Not your hospital, not your insurance, not your lab, and not your doctor. These entities care about your sickness, not your health. And you have to understand that, because that is what we train them for. That is why most doctors are leaving medicine now, just like I did 10 years ago. It is not an industry that leads with health, not even for its own employees. We built it to prevent death. And it only does that effectively after we have contracted chronic diseases, which then becomes a huge hassle to manage with only lifestyle medications. And then you resort to medications which are great to control your disease, but not to eradicate it or reverse it. And that is why many people spend their last few decades of their life, post-retirement, living as patients rather than humans who are enjoying the life that they've created. So you can't avoid death, but you should spend your whole life trying to avoid the hospital at any cost. You got to understand that deeply, because, quite frankly, I don't think anyone should care about your health more than you or your loved ones. But over the past century, we've collectively exchanged our well-being with the glory of work. I'm here to invite you to wake up and join us and participate in this new way of taking care of your own health. I want you to enjoy the life that you've built. Otherwise, what was the point of all this work? So here's the most realistic framework that I came up with, and I believe that it can be applied to any person, and regardless of which state you're in. And I want to present you with those three crucial components that I define health through right now. And the first one is by far the one that's most underrated and underutilized and often misunderstood, which is inner work, emotional regulation, and vision. And that includes understanding what you long for and what is holding you back from being healthy, what is holding you back from achieving that health vision or outcomes. Number two are habits and practices. What health and care system do you need to put in place for long term gains that do not depend on motivation alone? Because motivation and discipline also turns out have been proven to be overrated, meaning that there are better ways to create habits than relying on motivation alone, which is short lived, despite it being very effective. The third aspect is data, and that involves collecting objective and subjective measures on to help us understand what problems lie ahead, but also to understand which of these investments are working and which aren't. So, by iterating through these three elements, you will gain immense clarity on what you want for yourself and you'll start improving daily. By studying your own body, emotions, and habits, you can stop sacrificing your health to satisfy others. And this is your responsibility. You have to start now. So, I want to give you a practical way to start looking at health the same way you look at your business or your work. So, step one is to figure out your vision, strategy, and tactics. And let's be clear, health requires daily tactics, and these tactics require strategy, and strategy requires vision. And a clear vision requires deep inner work that often includes looking at traumas from our childhood and really going back to parts of us that have been stuck in time, preventing us or thinking that we are not worthy of the health outcomes that we want. There are many ways to do that, and I will delve into them and break this down in detail on my next video and blog. But here is a simple exercise that you can do right now to get started. So if you have a pen and paper, now is a great time to start taking some notes or start writing down what comes up for you when I ask you the following questions. And if not, just pause the video, bring a pen and paper, come back. All right, I hope you did that. Number one is to create a list. Think of all the people that you admire and what exactly you admire about how they take care of their health. These are the people in your life, the people that you follow, and just start thinking of this list of things. Mine, for instance, is having a healthy back, a life free of depression, type 2 diabetes, a life free of type 2 diabetes, that is, and visualize it to make it tangible. So you really need a strong visual that will help you root that vision into practice. So mine is that I love writing fiction, and I imagine myself sitting at a desk when I'm an 80-year-old man, writing and signing a book, and that would require me to have both my cognitive abilities and also be able to move and walk around easily. And I love taking walks, so I would love to be able to do that too. And to achieve that, I need to not be bedridden in a hospital with depression or a disease, right? So then you need to write the statement, starting with I am a commitment to. And that is something that we do in somatics therapy. And my statement is that I am a commitment to staying healthy and creative for as long as possible, right? And then you need to put that statement somewhere visible. Like I actually have this written down by my desk, and it's a gentle reminder that when I'm working or writing for too long, I need to remember that this is my commitment to take a break, go for a walk, eat healthy food. This step requires you to know yourself really well, and digging deeper really takes some effort, but the rewards are immense. Your ability to regulate your emotions will pay off for the rest of your life. So start learning that now. Step two is to start with small, sustainable investments. We like talking about health being like wealth, right? But how many of us treat health the way we treat money and investments? We spend at least 40 hours making money every week. How does that compare to how many hours we spend making health every week? Do you ever check the ROI for your health investments? Do you check your labs the same way that you look at your bank account? So, to figure out what investments you need to make, you'll want to map out your vision from step one into a second layer of key focus areas. So that could be depression management, for instance, diabetes prevention, avoiding hypertension, and then specific actions that are proven to help you work on these key focus areas, such as meditate every day, hit exercise, take a walk, stop eating sugar. You'll need to research which actions can really help you and then understand which of these actions bring you joy. And that is critical because if you don't enjoy what the research says will work, you simply won't do the things that will get you there. So there are many ways to do any single thing and achieve any single outcome. You just need to start figuring out which ones work for you. And then I recommend that you start small and go long. This is really key, which is to remember that you're building for the rest of your life. So meet yourself where you're at. You know, if you want to run, start with a 10-minute hit exercise. If you want to lift at the gym and you haven't been doing that for a while, start with 5 to 10 push-ups per day. You'll get stronger, much stronger than if you're doing zero. If you want to go to a Vipassana retreat, start with 15 to 30 minutes of meditation. So the important thing is to be reasonable, you know, like figure out where you are at and meet yourself there. And then find a method of accountability that works for you. Jerry Seinfeld used to talk about that a lot. In the way that he built a comedy career was to write a joke every single day, and he'd mark a calendar that he had printed with an X so that he would start seeing this chain. And that concept of a streak is really motivating for us as human beings. My friend Gabe Charbonneau, who I'm super grateful for, introduced me to this habit share app, which helps you track that in a really simple way and also share it with friends. If you ever get on habit share, just let me know and I'll tell you how to find me, because it's a really fun and engaging way to continue using this accountability to feed this positive feedback loop. And ultimately, you also want to reward yourself. So when I'm done with my morning routine, I usually get a cup of coffee and write for an hour, and that is really enjoyable for me, right? But I don't reward myself by smoking a cigarette or eating a piece of chocolate. Not that I don't fail at my routines, I do, but the concept is just like business. When you fail, you need to learn from that failure and get back into it. So even in addictive behaviors, relapse is key to your progress. The only problem is that people use their motivation to get into starting to do these actions, and then with the first failure, we forget that iteration is the name of the game. And that brings me to step 3, which is which of these actions are working. We need to leverage data and measure progress. Peter Attia, who's a longevity celebrity at this point, has this great metaphor in his book Outlive about how our health is like the Titanic cruising in dark waters, and we're trying to avoid the icebergs, right? Which he calls the 4 horsemen. And these are essentially heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, and neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and dementia. And to be clear, most of us are going to die from one of these 4, right? It's just about pushing the runway that we have, instead of contracting them early, contracting them towards the end of life, if we're lucky to live till when we're 80, 90, rather than 50 or 60. And the time to really do that is now, when you have your health. So if you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s, the time to start is right now. If you're in your 20s, maybe come back later, you know? You can afford that. But 30s and 40s, that's the exact time where we need to start doing these investments. And with data, we can start identifying what is working and what is not. So with biomarkers, with lab tests, and with genetics, these can take you very far in understanding what you're up against. And the problem with labs is that they give you a healthy range, but they don't give you an optimal range. And so when I did my hemoglobin A1C test and realized that I'm at a 5.6%, that was 0.2% away from the cutoff point for prediabetes. So my healthcare assessment, as far as the lab was concerned, was that I'm normal. But because I am interested in this space, I realized that optimal is actually 5.3. And by being 5.7, I'm only 0.2 away from prediabetes, which is too close for comfort, really. And so if I did not understand that, I would have never known that I needed to do lifestyle changes, which I now have been able to bring it below 5 for the past few measures, which I'm really proud of. And also, it's something that I need to continue working on. So now the getting the lab is also really motivating for me to continue doing the things that I know my body needs right now. So a big part of this is kind of like building a radar that would help you identify more of these icebergs around you. And I will talk about that in great detail on the fourth essay or the fourth video. In the end, I wish I have convinced you that your dreams for a healthy lifestyle are possible if you take small steps and think of the long-term gains. And I hope that you can take some time today to do one thing to support yourself as you continue to support the world. I'll see you in the next video.
Be the first to know about new content, events, and our 3-month program by signing up at thehumandash.com/subscribe. And while you're there, you can take the Human Dash assessment. It's free, science-backed, and it shows you how stress and habits are shaping your health right now.